first documented man to rock climb in the United States and possibly the world was John Muir. In 1869, he climbed Cathedral Peak, ropeless, in the northern Sierra. Although Muir was the first man to rock climb, Walter Perry Haskett Smith is credited as being the father of rock climbing. This is because he started the culture of rock climbing in the 1880s when he began to rock climb just to rock climb, rather than as a tool to get to the top of the mountain. Climbing gear began to get an upgrade in 1910 when Hans Fiechtel invented the modern pitten, a device that was hammered into the rock and had rope running through it. It was tested by Hans Dulfer. The modern carabiner was also invented in 1910 by Otto Herzog after seeing a similar device being used by firemen.
To make life happier and more enjoyable, it gives you still another product that has affected the lives of millions. Rayon yarn.
In the 1940s, the DuPont Association began experimenting with nylon rope, which is the kind of rope now used for climbing.
And seldom changes her own method of doing a job. So chemistry again departed from nature's age-old ways and turned once more to the forests and the cotton fields, this time for materials with which to make new textile yarn.
Au début des années 50, un homme semble naître de cette montagne, tant son discours reprend la mystique des territoires de grande solitude.
Walter Bonatti, considered one of the most successful climbers of all time, soloed the southwest pillar of the Drew in 1955. He was the first man to climb that route on the Drew by himself. It took him 6 days to ascend the rock.
Bonatti met au point un processus d'auto-assurance, où il redescend chaque passage gravi pour récupérer son matériel avant de remonter avec l'aide de la corde. Cette virtuosité technique ne doit pas faire oublier la démarche profonde qui la sous-tend. Bonatti recherche l'isolement total, l'engagement au-delà de toute retraite, le choix déterminant d'une option vitale.
While climbers all share a love for the rock, they come from a variety of different backgrounds, from nature conservationists to business owners.
Yeah, so I'm a general adventure sports photographer. I shoot mostly skiing, climbing, and kayaking. Getting angles is really difficult, especially when you're climbing with the person you're shooting or you're trying to get a good view.
Sam Summers.
Sam Summers and Becca Draws started a conservation group called Restoration Climbing as a way to give back to the climbing community.
Yeah, so Restoration Climbing for us was, so Becca and I went on a long road trip and we had the idea for a long time that we wanted to do that, and then, for as long as we had the idea, we wanted a part of it to be giving back to the climbing community in some way. Restoration Climbing is an initiative from the grassroots, and we're calling upon all the climbing troops. We strive to inspire each and every climber to make ethical practice a habitual action. As the sport of climbing grows, the impact shows. It's up to us. It's our responsibility.
What inspires you to give back to the community?
Just our way of educating people and saying, hey, we need to realize our impacts outside.
Yeah, Inner Strength Rock Gym. We started Inner Strength. My wife and I started Inner Strength Rock Gym.
Mike Hickey is a gym owner in Fort Collins.
What's your favorite part about owning this climbing business?
People. Enjoy meeting the people. I'm never amazed the amount of incredible people that you wouldn't really notice that come in, and some of the things they've done. It's pretty incredible.
I was a photographer for about 25 years, and I worked for AP and did a lot of journalism, things like that, and that is what got me to Colorado. That's how I was able to work out here. But then when I got hurt, I went kind of reeled back in, and I always wanted to be a professional climber, and when I got hurt and when I climbed El Cap for the first time in less than a day, a bunch of companies approached me and partnered with me, and so that kind of put me into that world.
Craig DiMartino is a motivational speaker, photographer, and professional climber. Craig also works with disabled people to get them back outside doing the things they love.
Some of the folks, I just got back from the Red River Gorge, and so I had a clinic there with, you have these people who are really, really limited in what they can do, but then you say to them, well, we're gonna go rock climbing, and they're like, okay. And you get them to the cliff, and they do this amazing thing that I've loved for so long. They do it for the first time, and you can just see it kind of level the playing field for them. You can watch it change their lives, and that just totally inspires me to my very core. But I also work for the Outdoor Channel, which is a new thing for the past 2 years, where I host a show for them. It's called Fight to Survive, and so I do that as well. So that's kind of where I actually make my money, because the outdoor industry it pays horrible.
I got into rock climbing my sophomore year of college at CU, and I was living with someone, my friend Levi. He took me under his wing and brought me to get shoes that fit too tight and took me out. Yeah, showed me the good sport.
Why climb?
Because it's not easy. It's something that you really have to try and you really have to push yourself at. I think that everybody needs something like that in their life. For me, it happens to be climbing.
It's pretty intimidating getting into the climbing community, but once you start meeting people, talking to people, you realize how laid back and friendly everyone is, and everybody's willing to like give you advice, help you out, go climbing with you, help you progress. There's huge support, like when things go wrong, there's your friends there.
I'm freezing right now, if you can't see. Obviously Eric isn't.
There's people you've never even heard of that are coming out and saying like they got your back, and you know, people help you work through things in the climbing community.
The community really began to take light when we did this road trip for restoration climbing. Since climbing is a sport that is accessible to anyone, all people from all walks of life are out there. It's not 6 degrees of separation, it's like 2 degrees of separation.
As climbers, we can be the best example. I mean, you talk about who goes hiking on the weekend, it's almost impossible to outreach to all those people. But climbers, hey, we all hang out in the same community, we go to the same gyms, we all know each other for the most part. It's kind of a really accessible community that if we want to be the best stewards of the outdoors, we can be.
I think, you know, after all the stuff that's happened to me, it's like when I sit there and I think about climbing in general, like why do I do it? Like why do I still do it so much? The thing that I think I always come back to is the community of people in the climbing world are some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. Like I've done really hard routes, I've done really easy routes, and like people don't care. It just, they forget who's done what. You know, you could do the hardest climb in the world today, and tomorrow, you know, a 12-year-old girl is going to come along and just crush you. The thing that doesn't change is this group of people that climbers are and continue to be. These people are amazing people to know and to hang out with. And as you kind of climb for a longer period of time, you stop worrying about the route so much and you start worrying about who am I here with and why am I doing it and what are these people like and what can I do for them and what are they going to do for me. And it's this give and take relationship. Climbing is very tactile. It's very much you and this other person, and so I really like that relational aspect of climbing, and I think that's what keeps bringing me back and will always make me a climber. I'll climb, you know, until I can't climb anymore.
Climbers are just really easygoing, really friendly, always supportive.
In general, the people that I've met, like most of my best friends now are climbers that I've met in the past like 4 years since I started climbing, 3-4 years.
You'll come across people outside climbing that you've never even met before, and you'll throw down crash pads next to each other and start working on a problem, and everybody's always so supportive of, hey, try this instead, how's this work for you? Climbers are just, in my opinion, fantastic people.
Well, I think I like most of the climbers I've met, so I think maybe I've liked most people I've met even, but if you're a climber, you're a climber. And one of the things I liked about it when I first started climbing was, you know, you were accepted. I see kids climbing with adults, doctors climbing with bussers, or servers, you know, stuff like that.
A lot of my friends outside of climbing came from climbing.
I met my wife in a climbing gym in Pennsylvania. I was leaving to move to Colorado, and I was working at a climbing gym, and I went in, and the owner said, "Oh, there's this girl here who goes to CSU, which is in Fort Collins, which is where you're moving, and you should meet her." And so we met and talked, and she's like, "Yeah, when you get to Fort Collins, I'll give you, here's my phone number. You know, call me when you get there, and we'll kind of connect and climb." And so we climbed together for like 6 months-ish, and I didn't want to ask her out because she's a super dependable partner. And my work schedule has always been very flux, and so she would be able to like just blow out and go climbing for days on end. And so I kind of thought it would be a bad idea to ask her out, but then ended up asking her out and got married. So that was like 20 years ago.
As far as injuries go, I've only had minor ones, you know, like hurt feet, and I herniated a disc in my neck trying something that was way above my grade that I climbed.
My knee's been a little tweaked and I didn't really get it looked at, but it's starting to feel better. But I've injured a number of pulley tendons, probably like 9 or 10 at this point, and I kind of stopped counting after a while, but somewhere around there.
I've pulled a couple of tendons pretty bad. I've had tendonitis in both of my elbows.
I've had a couple shoulder surgeries, but that could be just my fault. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't doing things right.
And yeah, I just kind of learned not to like overtrain and push it, and I've been healthy for the last year within my fingers, so thankful for that.
The last big climb I've done, it was in Argentina. I was climbing with a Chilean kid I'd met down there.
Hola, yo me llamo Javier, soy chileno.
And we were supposed to do a 2-day climb, and on the way down we got rope stuck. We tried to finish our descent in the dark. I think it was about 1 a.m. and I kicked off a huge rock, and thank God my buddy turned around and it bounced off his pack, but that could have been really bad. And going back up, we had no water. We spent the night with no water, no food. Woke up covered in snow, got some water from that, and then I haven't really done much of that level again, but I will next year.
So normally this would be where I say, have you had any injuries?
Yeah.
So do you mind just talking about the accident?
Totally.
In July 2002, Craig was climbing in Rocky Mountain National Park with his climbing buddy. They went out to Sundance Buttress, which is the last formation on Lumpy Ridge. They were planning on top roping and running laps on the route White Man. Unfortunately, the two never fully communicated what exactly that meant. Craig led the route and clipped in at the top of the ledge. When he made it to the top, Craig thought he was going to be lowered to the ground.
And so what I did was I grabbed the rope and pulled on it, and when you have 100 feet of rope out through, 15 pieces of gear, you feel tension because the rope's pretty heavy. And so I felt that and I was like, oh yeah, he has me. And so I just pulled in, unclipped, and sat back and started falling. And I kept thinking, okay, it's gonna come tight, it's gonna come tight. Because it was so steep, I wanted to see where I was going, and I pushed really hard, and it spun me kind of out like this, and so I could see the hillside to my left, and as I was coming down, falling in that orientation, about 20 feet from the ground, there was a dead tree that I walked around to get to the climb, and the tree kind of hit me right in the side of the head, and it stood me back up, and I landed standing just both feet right down on the ground. And so basically my heels, ankles, and my tibia exploded out the sides of my legs. So I had compound fractures of my both legs. I severed the artery in my right leg, and it broke my back at L2, which is kind of right through your belly button. Shockwave kept going up, and it broke my ribs on my right side and punctured my right lung, tore my labrum in my shoulder, broke all the bursa sacs in my elbow on this side, kept going up and broke my neck at C6, which is kind of right through your Adam's apple here. And then it just kind of exited out, the top of my body, and I crumpled down onto the talus blocks. My partner Steve was, 20 feet away. He saw the whole thing happen, so he was right at my side. I was very awake. I was aware of what was going on. I mean, aware in the sense that I was in a major state of shock, but the plan was he was going to run to the truck, drive to Estes, and get help. And that would have been the plan had he not remembered that he had a cell phone, which never had a cell phone, never carried a cell phone, and he had one that day. And we ended up having basically an EMT at my side within 45 minutes after the accident. I had this guy next to me, and that started that whole process of getting me out to the helicopter.
And do you know even how it seems like it's such a long explanation, but do you know like a timeline? Because I've like from when you start falling to when you hit, it's got to be like
2.5 seconds. Yeah.
6 months after the accident, Craig developed a rare nerve disease called reflex sympathetic dystrophy syndrome, or RSD. The pain was severe, and doctors told him he'd end up in a wheelchair. Because of this, he decided to amputate his right leg. This bold move helped him transition back into the climbing world. Despite bad weather, scary experiences, and injuries, climbers are always looking forward to their next time on the rock.
For me, going back to climbing was definitely a question. I wasn't sure that was what I was going to do. I never had this grand plan to, okay, I'm going to do these things, I'm going to make these marks, and that was never the plan. The plan was I'll go back and see if I like it. Going back to it is a good thing. It's not a good thing for everybody, but I think when I work with people now who are coming through trauma, it's just that it's really, really easy to get hung up in where you are right now. So for me, when I was hurt really badly, it was like, oh God, I'm never gonna feel better. I'm never gonna get out of this hole that I'm in. And when I'm with folks now, I hear that. I hear that, God, my leg doesn't work, or this, my back is all jacked. And it is, you're totally right. But that's not the rest of your life. And I just tell people, just be patient and just look at the big picture. This is a bump in the road.
But it's mostly like the scary experiences in alpine climbing, rock fall, being in poorly protected areas, weather rolling in, lightning. That stuff's pretty scary, and that's made me definitely think twice about what we were doing. But usually I give it a little bit of time, and then I just feel the rocks just like calling me back. I gotta go back. There's something about it.
It's just these very small moments that feel really big, and they can just escalate quickly. And ultimately, at the end of it, it's like, oh sweet, I would love to do that again. But in that moment of foot pain and hand pain and just not knowing, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, just all these factors of unknown building up to just create this, why am I here feeling? And then, like I said, come down and ready to go back up.
What were you thinking on that drive home from the first time outdoors?
When's the next time?
So I think rock climbing is one of those things that never gets old. You can always learn and you can always grow. You never kind of reach a peak where you're like, oh, well, I'm the best I'll ever be and I know everything there is to know. You know, rock climbing is a really good metaphor for life, and a lot of times you try something and it feels impossible, and you say, I'm never going to do this, or I can't do this. But you work at it and you're persistent, and you have a lot of, you reach out to support. I almost never go rock climbing by myself. I always have someone there supporting. And everyone's really supportive of each other, even if they're not best friends or whatever. It's a really good place where, like, if you go climbing, you can be, you can go to a new area, you can make new friends, you can just really push yourself. And I think that's just a really valuable quality to have in the community, is that supportiveness.
Where's your favorite place to climb?
People ask me that all the time. I have almost every place I just went to is usually my favorite place. So the Red River Gorge is my favorite place right now because I just came back from there.
It does change. It's like another one of those things where, like, when I'm there, this is my favorite place. When I'm there, this is my favorite place.
What would you say to someone who might want to climb but they're tentative?
Do it. Go to a gym first. A gym is obviously going to be a lot more welcoming and not quite as harsh.
I'd say try it. Go to a local gym and maybe try indoors first would be my suggestion, and to kind of like find some people that are psyched and want to take them out, and kind of go with someone who knows the ropes, and it's easy to make friends, and find some people and get outside and go for it.